to another real, raw, and related conversation. This is Kendra Tanner from the True You Project. I am here with my esteemed friend, colleague, co-creator, awesome kick-ass coach, Michelle McCormick. And I'm so excited to have this conversation. It's going to be a different conversation to previous real, raw, and related conversations that we've had, because we are just going to go for it. We're going to see where the wind takes us in the spirit of really exploring what it means to live as your true you in the context of self-expression. And this is something that has been near and dear to my heart because it's at the core of all of us. And a lot of times as women, we find it difficult to embrace all of ourselves and express it in a way that's true to ourselves. And what happens is we start to find alternative means of doing it, or start to try to do it the way other people tell us to. So, perfect example, food can become a way to stuff us in. Another great example, we think we have to live this sort of masculine energy way in business as opposed to expressing our full feminine, emotional, wonderful, curvy selves. And a lot of times too, within the faith world, we think we have to fit the molds of what it means to fit the bill for a certain religion or faith paradigm. And Michelle, similar to me, has had her own version of her journey in these three areas of food, faith, and feminine. And so I'm so excited to dive into these things with you. Michelle, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love seeing you as a host. You're awesome.
Thank you. I know this is like, if for guys listening, and you'll see more, but Michelle and I, like I said, we're co-creating. So we're normally chatting. And so now it's sort of like, you know, different sort of roles we're playing. So this is awesome, but we're going to keep it real and just keep chatting to each other. So Michelle, I would love to start this conversation wherever you feel most led to talk about, in the context of sharing with us your journey or parts of your journey with either food, faith, or feminine, and how that has been impactful in where you are today and how you create your business today.
Wow. Okay. So food, faith, or feminine? Well, I think I'll start with the feminine because I'm feeling very connected to that right now.
Awesome.
I think that as an only child and someone that lived with my mother most of my life, I loved wearing dresses. And I used to see her dress in beautiful skirts and long dresses, and I thought that she was the most beautiful woman in the world and really admired and respected her femininity. I didn't know what that was at the time, 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 really. But I respected it and I loved it about her. And I think I held that with me until the time I started working at a job in higher education and there was a dress code. And and I thought that in order to excel in my career path that I had to toughen up. And I was living in Hollywood and I was taking the train to downtown LA, and I didn't want to wear dresses. I didn't really always want to wear skirts. I didn't like the attention that I would receive on the way there. I didn't feel comfortable. And I felt strong and powerful when I was wearing pants. More specifically, beautifully tailored pants, but pants less. And pumps. Loved wearing pumps. And button-up Oxford shirts. Literally long sleeve, fitted, button-up Oxford shirts. So I basically looked like a man, but the female version of it, right?
A sexy man.
Yeah, sure. And in that process, I definitely toughened up my feminine edges. And I leaned into what that meant for me as a career woman, and it worked. I got promoted, I got raises, I was seen as successful in the eyes of my family and probably some of my peers. And I accepted that their self-worth of what, or their worth of what, who I was as my
Mhm.
self-worth. And I equated this masculinity as a piece of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but years went by, not many, but a couple, and I wasn't feeling fully self-expressed, wasn't feeling creatively expressed in my work. I wasn't feeling like I was living into my feminine being in my relationship. I wasn't feeling that I was showing up as my true self at work.
Mm.
And I knew it all needed to change. I needed to change. And I didn't know exactly how. But that's when I started to realize that there's a feminine component to my life that is missing. And I would experience glimpses of it, right? There was things that I would do. I started working with a coach, and the reflection was powerful for me. I remember one week my assignment was to go to an S Factor pole dancing class. And I thought, this isn't crazy.
Yeah.
So much fun. And I started to remember, and I started to own it
Yeah.
by bit. And
So, what were you discussing with your coach, and what were you feeling in your life and observing that made you realize that the solution or a solution was to go to pole dancing?
yeah, um, I had hired a coach to help me transition out of my current job into the world of coaching. I knew that I had the skill set that I used with students and my staff in higher education that I could use with people outside of the university and build a business for myself. But I didn't know how to get from where I was to where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
In starting my work with him, it became a work of my entire being. So we looked at how I was expressing myself or not expressing myself or holding back. And at that time, I probably wasn't wearing the pants. Maybe I was, but I doubt. There was probably less of that and more of me feeling like the tactic that I used, the way that I showed up at work was successful on some level. But when I brought the way that I showed up in my work home, in my relationship with my partner, it backfired. And I was,
Yeah.
and I'm one of those people that asks questions about everything, always have. And the questioning of that led to the realization that I was showing up in a very masculine way at work. And when I was showing up as masculine at home, it it was creating this barrier between my ability to connect with my partner.
Can you give me an example of that? And I'm asking because one, I'm a little bit nosy, but two, I feel like this is a thing. I know I'm on that journey of trying not to bring as much masculine energy into a relationship. And it was something that up until a year ago, I wasn't even aware of. And similar to what you're saying, I've been successful in different environments in my life, corporate world being one of them, and thinking, oh, well, you just apply the same logic and the same decision making and to your relationship, and up against a brick wall. And I feel like for some women, they may not even be aware that this is this is a dynamic that exists. And even with the awareness, it's putting examples to say, this is potentially how it could show up for you. So I'd love to hear how it was showing up for you.
Sure. Sure. It's a good question. Let's see. For example, at work, if I wanted something to get done, I would map out the process in my head and connect with the right people
Mm-hmm.
and request that it be done, follow up, and it would be done.
Yeah.
Very logical.
Yep.
I want to be taken out on a date. The same logic does not apply.
Really?
Really. There is definitely room to be decisive and to know what you would like. But the way in which we go about it doesn't have to be so matter of fact.
Mm.
In fact, there is a way to relay the desire and then let your partner show up. That's really beautiful.
Mm.
And I was missing that because I was just driving to the point.
Yeah.
This is what I want. And sometimes, this is where the pain happens, but sometimes I would expect him to ask me without asking him.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, I thought it was expected that over some period of time, whether it's like a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, there would be a point where he would ask me out to do something fun where we could connect. And I'm all about intellectual stimulation, like give me that and I'm like 90% there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like everything, all of it, right? But that's a big part of it for me. And that over a great glass of wine and a nice meal or a funny show or some other type of unique experience, whatever, fills me up.
Mm. And so you have this clarity for yourself that you love these things and this is what fills you up and this is what is stimulating for you and the connection and this is the desire that you have. And I feel like a lot of women, myself included, I'll put myself in this category. There's this learning process of how do you communicate that? So I want to communicate my desires, but I also, what I don't want is I don't want to come across as needy. I don't want to come across as bossy, as bitchy, as all this kind of stuff, right? But at the same time, I want to be true to myself that this is, hey, this is me. I love being taken out for beautiful meals and wine. I love being taken to the museums or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So how did you find a way to be true to yourself and also communicate it in a way that your partner was able to listen and be receptive to what you were saying?
Well, every relationship's different.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the answer was to be soft. It was as easy as relaxing into me and being clear on what I'd like in my life and the most positive outcomes would be just a vision away. And to be soft about how it came about, knowing this is what I would like, this would be really amazing, this is how I could see something great happen, with no attachment or expectation. but just knowing. And so you become to see more opportunities.
Mm. So I love how you brought the word expectation in there and also the concept of attachment to outcome, because I think that's huge. And I think to me, that's the starting point of when we can get off our true you path, right? We have a strong desire. It's more than a desire. It's that expectation or this feeling like this has to happen a certain way, right? I have to be taken out every Friday night on a date in order to know that I'm loved. um, and then we start to, that becomes almost an agenda where we start to try to make that happen and use our masculine energy to plan for it, find the right resources and put it into action, right? So I've got the babysitter lined up and I made a reservation. Come on, we're going for a date. And meanwhile, the guy's like, excuse me? So I'm so glad you brought that up. So I feel like that's like a massive internal shift, right? Like this letting go of the expectations and the outcome. And so what were you, if you were letting go of that, what were you then holding on to instead?
Myself. That was the first answer that came to my mind, so I'll share that. I was nurturing myself. I was filling myself up in all types of ways that felt really good to me.
Mm.
And I was allowing my partner to be one of them. Feeling into my feminine in a pole dancing class shifted how I saw myself in that hour, in the following 24 hours today.
Yeah.
And I continue to relax into the sensual of who I am and how I show up, and focusing on all of those things that light me up, that are important to me, that I love. The beauty of a baby,
Mm.
the smell of a rose on the path, the ability to be out in nature, to dance naked.
Mm-hmm.
I find that when you show up as that person, you are opening yourself up for those visions, those ideal outcomes to be more of your reality.
Mm. And I think as well, what I've noticed for myself is goes back to what you first said of nurturing yourself, right? And so when we are caring for ourselves, and by that, I'm going to sum that up as to mean when we're able to acknowledge for ourselves what we like, what excites us, what feels good to us, and we bring that into our lives intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
then one, that allows us to trust ourselves more, but two, it allows us to rely less on somebody else to do that for us, right? So then you don't need your partner to do that as much for you because you're doing it for yourself already. And so if you're treating yourself to a beautiful meal and a glass of wine on a regular basis just because you love yourself and that's nurturing for you, then the next time you want to spend time with your partner and he's like, hey, let's go do XYZ. And you're like, that's not on my list. But you can let go of that because you've already had the experience that you wanted to have with the beautiful food and wine. And you can have a different experience with him. And you're filled up in every way that you want to be.
Absolutely. And I would even suggest maybe you can even have it all, right? Like,
Mm.
if you're open and into the suggestion, go for it. And softly ask for what might be even more amazing for you to have in addition to that too, right? So you have
Mm.
your date with him that he wants to do, and if you listen, there may be the opportunity to hear him ask you what else you'd like.
Mm.
that would invite the opportunity to say, I'd really love to share a glass of wine with you over a meal at X place.
Mm. Yeah.
My experience, they want
That's
to.
such a, oh, go ahead.
They want to. And we
Yeah.
want it.
I feel like there's this, what you're describing is this element of like a dance almost, right? Where it's like expressing your desire. Hun, I'd love to spend some really intimate time with you. Okay, great. How would you like to do that? I would love to experience a beautiful meal at this restaurant with like a bottle of red. Oh, great. When would you like to do that? I'd love to go on Friday. Oh, cool. What about the kids? Actually, I think my friend might be able to babysit. Awesome. Let's do it. Right. It's like, um, so you're allowing this conversation and this dialogue to occur that essentially gets a result that you could have planned out and had the resources lined up for initially, but it allows for the guy to be a part of that and to play his masculine part, and so that you can be soft and you can be expressing yourself honestly.
Yes. Yes to all of that.
Yeah. So how is this translated for you into business?
Hmm. Well, you're asking me at a time where I'd be lying if I didn't say I was driving. And I love to drive fast
Mm-hmm.
in life and in business. And I have created experiments around my goals to have fun and to play with it. And I've included a lot of women in the way that I'm growing, which is interesting because I, as a coach, work with a lot of men and women. But interestingly, my female coaching friends mostly coach women.
Mm.
But I'm surrounded by a lot of sisters in my business, whether they are creatives or entrepreneurs or coaches or however they're showing up. I guess they're all entrepreneurs in a sense, but um, I lean on them. I'm vulnerable with them, with you in particular. And I find that that is the absolute foundation of my business. If I weren't able to be real with what was happening within my business, with trusted people around me,
Mm.
I think I may be more likely to revert into a masculine, closed off, driving exclusively by the results that are tangible.
Mm.
And for me, my business is a reflection of my lifestyle. And so it inevitably has to reflect the principles that I embody in real life.
So what are some principles that you're embodying that you've learned because you've been open to and wanting to embrace the feminine side and feminine leadership?
Mm. Um, well, I've embraced the idea that I think your audience may have heard of the idea that you show up first and then you do and then you have. So this idea of
Mm.
do have, instead of do and then you be and then you have, I think. Um, in the being, in the way that I'm being, I'm clear about wanting to be grounded, but I'm also clear about wanting to be chic and to feel that way. So as part of the way I show up for my business, I find it's important to adorn myself, right? We were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I love to wear jewels. I make my bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I eat nourishing foods. As part of my workday, I would take a break and I will make what I call a Buddha bowl that has a beautiful array of colors and nutrient dense food that I feel really good afterwards. And I know that I'm better in my work because of the way I take care of myself.
Yeah. And is that selfish?
I think there's nothing wrong with being truly full of yourself. And I mean that as a way to know and understand and be filled up with how you want to show up in the world. Because from that, you can overflow
Yeah.
and then you can reach and connect more deeply and make a bigger impact. And I love that so much.
Yeah.
So worth it. I used to
I,
have a problem with being selfish or thinking that I was selfish. Yeah. Someone
yeah.
told me one time and it stuck with me and I thought, oh, am I? And it's been many years since then.
But I
And
think that's a common thing for people or women. I think since that's kind of who we're talking to right now, but is a sense of I can't put myself first. Other people have to come first, and then because
yeah,
of that, you become depleted, and then you have less to give.
right.
And so I'm not saying that that in and of itself is selfish, but that's the impact of it. And so there's a really good reason to take care of yourself first if your focus is outward, that you can only give so much if you're not being filled up yourself. And so to take the time for pampering yourself, making yourself feel beautiful, nourishing your body physically with gorgeous food, and that then the results, you can give more. And
Yeah,
how, or you're just about to say something, I'll let you say that, and then I have another question for you.
sure. I think any step is valuable, whether it's getting out of the clothes that you wouldn't wear out of the house,
Mm,
right? Like if that's the one thing that you shift, make an experiment for a week and see what that feels like. Maybe it makes no difference. So it's not the right thing for you, but maybe it does. And if it does, and if it works, why not do it?
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
important to start where you're at, wherever that is. Because I think when I hear you talking about what I do, I I think about how far I've come in this journey and how far I think the path extends.
mm. And what's the tangible result of that? So you might, other than feeling good, which is great, we all want to feel great, but how have you seen that translate into, I'll say your business to start with, but if you want to extend that to personal life as well, go for it.
Sure. Um, feel happier about my business. I feel more inspired to grow it, live it, breathe it. As a business owner, my any kind of residual issues or baggage will come up and go through the business, right? And knowing that I am grounded and that I have the support of sisters and people that love and care about me, that surround me. Oh, I'm in the season of receiving right now, and it feels delicious.
Mm,
I love being around people and knowing that I can ask for help if I need it. And I'm hearing now more when people offer it to me. And that translates in life and in business. And it's so amazing, Kendra. I was thinking about this the other day. I've had people reach out to me that want to help me.
That's huge.
Absolutely. All from a slight shift of being open.
I feel like we could go into this for ages, and we've got a little bit of time left, so let's go there for a little bit, because this whole thing of giving and receiving is such a balance as well. And it's something I'm learning the receiving part, because it's it feels, well, it's like it's easier to give than to receive. I can experience that. Like it feels better for me to like here, as opposed to, because there's an element of surrender for the receiving, right? It's like being still, and it's letting it go, and it's being, there's that vulnerability of feeling the joy associated with it and feeling the love, and also letting go of you having all the answers and everything like that, right? So there's like this huge surrender, vulnerability, all that kind of stuff in the receiving part. So if you had to offer, bug in my face, if you had to offer listeners like one or two tips, tricks, tools into how to get better at receiving, what's the secret? What would those tips be?
Listen for it. I had no idea how many people were offering.
What does it sound like for someone to offer something?
Can I help you with that? Would you like
It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. My instant response was, "Oh no, but thank you." And I could even have a real connection with that person. I could look them in the eyes. I could smile. "Oh, it's okay. I got it." "Oh, no worries. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Nice to see you. How's your day going?"
Yeah. And so how have you changed? What's your response now?
So now I listen. I hear it. I hear it way more often than I used to. And I process it instead of instantly shutting it down. And more often than not, I say, "That would be wonderful. Thank you. Yes, please. How kind of you. Thank you."
Yeah.
And being cognizant of the experiences that you have that you may have always accepted. Like for me, when someone opens a door open for me, "Thank you," right? That's a very natural response for me. But being cognizant that that's happening, and then I'm receiving that, and they're giving that, is a nice first step.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that you potentially already are receiving in your life. And so understand who you're being when you're receiving. Because what I just heard in how you're responding is that you're giving back, right? So it's not like someone saying, "Hey, can I help?" And you're like, "Yes, this is what I need you to do."
Right.
You're saying, "Yes, thank you."
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. You're giving back in the sense of you're acknowledging them, you're giving them gratitude, you're telling them that they're kind, you're affirming them. And so there is this exchange. And so even if you're listening, it's like, receiving doesn't have to be that word selfish is coming to mind again, right? Like selfish, like, "Oh no, it's all about me." Like, no, receiving can be about the other person as well, if you choose to make it so.
Right. Absolutely. They get joy. You get joy. Everyone wins.
Yeah. Someone once told me this, our esteemed friend Byron, the wise sage of 2015. I was sharing with him an experience of someone was offering me something for free. And I felt like, oh, I can't receive, I can't receive. And he said, you know, that person potentially wants to give this to you. Like what would you do if you wanted to give a gift to somebody and they turned around and said, no, 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 I can't take it. You keep it. You want to give that to someone. So just open your arms and let them give it to you. And just like you say, you know, say thank you, and don't rob them of the opportunity of them giving, because as much as you want to give, that person may want to give as well, and there's a season for both. And that really stuck with me, of that sometimes when we don't want to receive, we're actually taking away from the person, even though we think we're keeping them whole, but it's not allowing them to be their truest self.
Because when you're whole, you can be open to receiving.
Yeah. Yeah, because you also know it's not because you're lacking, right? It's like, it's not that this person's like filling in a void for you. It's just that they're adding above and beyond what you already have.
And you can do the same for them by
Yeah.
acknowledging them.
Yeah, definitely.
A real human, awesome interaction. Yes, please. More of that, please.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for taking your time to have this conversation, because this has been amazing. It's gone places I had no idea it would go. It's so exciting. I can't wait to listen to it again and process everything. I'll wrap this up with, is there anything that you want to share with listeners that you haven't talked about yet? Any other tips, any other key lessons that you've learned? Advice, hope? Anything.
Well, anything is possible. So start from where you're at right now. Get support. Get a trusted group that you can call on. They might not even know each other, but establish that for yourself. I think that's really key. I didn't come to this conversation thinking of anything that absolutely had to be shared, but having that group of people that I know are there for me for different reasons is so helpful. You're not alone. Do it all alone. There are people out there, like you said, that are ready, willing, and able to support you and to be there with you and to hold you up.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to be a woman today.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought. It's that idea of that as a woman, you get to relax, you get to be soft, right? You get to receive, you get to express that, and that all of that is part of being a woman. And so if for whatever reason you've been denying yourself that, or haven't felt that that's been flowing very easily, or feeling like you're having to be somebody else, or wear the pants, or, you know, take the reins, that there's a time and a place for that too. And I think that plays to the strength that we have as women, that we can step into that when it's necessary and feel that. But at the same time, don't forget that other part of you that that gets to be still.
Beautiful.
Thank you again so very much. Listeners, if you want to tune into Michelle's work, she can be found at lmccormick.com, and she does a range of work, everything from website support, goals coaching, and leading you through powerful meditations to get back to your true self. So definitely check out her work. And a little sneak preview, I'm going to spill the beans, Michelle. If you liked what you heard today, we're going to be having more conversations around the topic of femininity and leadership and applying that to business. So hop over to Michelle's site, lmccormick.com, or the True You Project. Leave your email so you can get updates about when these conversations will be happening. They'll be sort of on invite only if you're a part of our communities. So hop on over there. This is going to be happening more because, as you can tell, there's so much more wisdom Michelle has to share and so much more we can talk about. So more to come. And thank you, Michelle.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. All right, talk to you soon.
Bye.